Alright, yep.
Alright. Start with Sirloin. Use a regular old blade.
People are gonna come back here and be like, what the hell are you guys doing? This video and
Start with this triangular piece right here in the corner with the boning knife. Remove this, turn it into grind. Remove this upper finger to expose your lower finger. And then trim the rest of the top off. Turn that into grind. Then I normally turn it right here and go to my scimitar knife, cut the head off the butt, as I call it. Set that aside. Go back to my boning knife, trim this little piece of fat out that connects the sirloin butt from the culotte. Flip it over and peel apart. You can use your hands, but I normally use a knife. Take that straight up and cut it off. Set that aside. That's used for tips. Then I trim the top of this off. Pretty it up. Start with this upper piece and carve out. Just that. Trim this piece right here. Now I'm just touching up the top of this to cut all the fat off.
no, it isn't.
Okay, and then usually check the edges. This one's alright except for that piece right there. Turn this, look at the edge. Get up under this, carve it out. The top is good, just like that. I take and I flip it over, and I remove this silver skin to expose this finger right here. So it's still got some of the first finger attached to it. I remove that. Now from here, I'll take the knife right here, get up under it all the way, come across all the way from point A to point B, and carve out. Lift up, carve the rest of that out. Trim any meat that you might get off of that. Alright. Now what I've done is expose this finger. I can use my finger to get up under this one. Expose that. Just lift up and cut along where you see it attached right here in this line. I just lift up and carve out. And it kind of pulls itself out as you cut it. Okay. You're left with the 3 pieces of tips that you need to trim after the butt. And then from here, I turn it right here and trim the rest of this, and this all out.
Okay.
I'm just going to get up under here and carve all this at once. Get up under that fat right there. Lift up and carve out. Turn it to remove this gristle. And this is what you look for in a sirloin butt. That's fully trimmed. I'll set this aside and I'll start with trimming the tips. With this big finger, I normally cut along this silver skin, cut each edge off to expose the meat on both sides. So when I turn it, I can get the knife from one side clean to the other, coming out under the silver skin and trimming straight out. Lift it up, trim that, flip it over, trim any meat that I might have left on it, and then just get the rest of this silver skin that might be left. And that right there looks good on that side, and then that side. Now to cut these, I use the scimitar knife, so I don't dull my boning knife. Just cut these into little cubes. And then with this piece, meat exposed to me, I trim the top piece off to expose this line right here. Then I just cut that straight up. I square that off. I square that straight off so I can get my blade up under to the other side cleanly. Just like that. And it should come out in one good, swift motion. And that's the rest of that. I'm going to trim this meat right here. That's waste. Just trim the top of this off a little. And then you have the rest of your tips, which I use the scimitar knife again for, so I don't dull the boning knife. And when you're cutting tips, you want good, fairly square 1-inch cubes. And then when I get to the culotte, I square it off with this corner right here to expose the meat on one side. On that, I can grind some of that because there's so much meat in that. I can grind that, do away with the fat. From here, there's silver skin under here that I get directly under right here. You can see where it thins out right here. I usually take my knife along here, right here where the thickness starts.
Yep.
I'm going to get directly under that at a straight line with the silver skin and coming out at this point right here on the other side and cutting out. Using the silver skin as a guide, I guide it along the silver skin, exposing that. Then I flip it over and come up and around. Exposing all meat. And then I just trim this silver skin with whatever meat still attached to it and grind it. Okay. That's good enough. Kind of clean this side up a little bit. Then flip it over and use this flat edge as my guide, I guess. Get it directly under. Cut to the point's what I do to open that flap right there.
Yep.
And then flip it over and bring my knife up and out. And trim any excess meat you get from that. just carve this little bit of that right off. Grind it. Then I start pointing to the right. Just taking my scimitar knife again. Just cut little strips. Depending on the width of your strips, like this is fairly wide, I'm going to cut it directly in half and cut it in tips. Whoops. Also, because that's fairly thick. Also another thick one, cut it directly in half and get tips out of it. And that is the process of one sirloin body.
Hell yeah.